Donald Trump just had a disastrous arrival to Ankara, Turkey for the NATO summit. The trip is falling apart already, and Donald Trump is physically falling apart. I'll show you what he looked like as he needed to be escorted and held by President Erdogan of Turkey as Donald Trump struggled to even walk when he arrived on the Qatari Air Force One. You can see these photos right here of President Erdogan of Turkey clutching Donald Trump's arm and guiding him along the tarmac at the Ankara airport upon his arrival. More photos over here. Donald Trump did not know what direction to even walk in. He was very confused, looked very sickly. He was making weird faces. I'll show you more of that in just a moment. You can see this photo right here of Donald Trump's top officials and cabinet members. You see Rubio looking like a deer in headlights over there. That's because Donald Trump unilaterally announced that he would be removing all sanctions against Turkey for Turkey's purchase of Russian defense systems. These were sanctions that Trump imposed on Turkey during the first Trump administration, and Rubio testified on June 3rd or so and said that those sanctions could not be removed. He testified under oath because it was a congressional authorization, and so Rubio was stunned when Donald Trump announced all sanctions against Turkey would be removed, and Donald Trump said he would be now clearing the way to sell F-35s because these sanctions were removed. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but let me just show you the footage over here so you can see for yourself. I think even state regime media, Fox, was stunned as Erdogan clutched a wandering Trump's arm to guide him around. Let's play this clip.
Told the Iranian leaders, whoever they are, I'm staying out of this.
Right.
And then they rocketed Turkey a couple of times. So now they said, and they've said some negative things about the Turkish leader at the Ayatollah's funeral, the never-ending funeral he's on. So they said something negative about Turkey. So he kind of risked that alliance for the president.
Let's listen in to this.
He just stopped briefly.
So then the meeting between Donald Trump and Erdogan began, and Donald Trump started saying that Greenland should be controlled by the United States, and this is why Donald Trump doesn't like NATO, because NATO betrayed him by not handing over Greenland to the United States. Now, mind you, we are at a NATO summit right here, and Donald Trump is directly threatening NATO, which is a violation requiring the invocation of Article 5 against Donald Trump, saying that he wants to steal Greenland, conquer Greenland, annex it, and that's why he despises NATO. He's saying this at a NATO summit. Let's play this clip.
Well, that's what hurt my relationship with NATO, because Greenland doesn't help Denmark. Denmark doesn't spend money to really help Greenland, but it's an important part for the United States. And it's surrounded by China ships and Russian ships. And that's not going to happen. The ships it's not going to happen. It was Greenland that and it continues to be, that should be controlled by the United States, not by Denmark. And when they wouldn't go along with it, and with all the money we spend to help them with Russia, and we don't have to spend any money. We could remove all of our soldiers out of Europe. Because as you probably noticed, Europe's a very different place than it was 20 years ago. A lot different, much different. It's a much different, and they better be careful with immigration and energy. If they're not careful with those two things, you're not going to have a Europe anymore. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Then a reporter asks him, I think, a good question. Can you clarify what you meant when you posted on social media that you wanted to get a restraining order against Giorgia Meloni? You posted a photo of the Prime Minister of Italy and you said restraining order, implying that she was stalking or harassing you, which is a pretty despicable thing for you to post about anybody, yet alone a world leader. And it's also harassment, like real serious, and it's just ridiculous heading into NATO. And Donald Trump's like, oh, I don't know. I think she's a nice person. We've had a good relationship, I guess. I didn't make a full press on her, he goes. I didn't make a full hard press on her, but she betrayed me by not allowing me to use bases in Italy to attack Iran with Netanyahu. Here, play this clip.
Can you clarify what you meant with your social media post yesterday with respect to Prime Minister Maloney? That True Social post with the restraining order?
Oh, I don't know. I think she's a nice person, actually. We had a bad relationship, but it became a little bad because she refused to help us. Again, I didn't put a heavy press on her, but she refused to get involved with the Hormuz Strait, or you could also say just Iran. She refused to get involved. So it soured my relationship with her a little bit. But I like her. I think she's a nice person, actually. But I think she made a mistake. You know, they get a lot of their oil from, we don't get any of it. We have a lot of oil. The United States has more oil than.
And then Donald Trump, in such a disgraceful way, attacks NATO right here when he's asked, are further troop drawdowns in Europe likely? And Donald Trump's like, yeah, you know, I don't like NATO. He attacks NATO, and he's like, the only reason why I'm here is I've got a very special relationship with Turkey. And he uses the term special relationship is notable as well. Let's play this clip.
Are further troop drawdowns in Europe likely? And are you satisfied with the progress that NATO allies have made?
Well, we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, you know, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing. But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada, etc., but to protect people, countries from, generally speaking, it used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. And I say that's fine, but you would think that they'd be very willing to do something to help us. And they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, I guess he's no longer there, maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, no, we'll help after the war is over. I said, I don't need that kind of help. We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
And then Donald Trump's back to saying, look, I think we're very close to doing a deal between Putin and Zelensky. They're so close. They want to make a deal so badly. You've been saying this since the election. You promised on day one, after the election, you would make a peace deal after Russia's war against Ukraine. And here you are saying it again. And if you've been following the Midas Touch coverage, you know Russia's been escalating their strikes on Kyiv. In Ukraine, they don't have the Patriot interceptors to stop Russia's ballistics. Ukraine does have these new FP-1 long-range drones that they've been using to strike Omsk and Russian refineries across Russia, very far, deep past the front. I mean, 2,700 kilometers in. But here's Donald Trump saying, they want to make a deal. They told me they want to make a deal. Here, play this clip.
I do. I had a very good talk with President Putin, who, by the way, has a lot of respect for President Erdogan, a lot of respect for him. We had a long talk yesterday. It lasted a long time. And I also spoke with President Zelensky right after that. I think they both want to make a deal. It's too bad it took so long. But I think there's going to be, something's going to come out. And the president's also helping us with that. But I think there's something, you know, I settled 8 wars. And I think we're going to be settling a 9th. It doesn't seem likely now, but sometimes with war, I see when it's least likely, that's when it happens. I had a very good talk with President Putin. I had a very good talk with, I would say, as a combination. A lot of times I'd do well with Putin and Zelensky would be a problem, or vice versa. Zelensky would be great and Putin would be. They both want to get it settled now. more than that. That's all I do in my life is deals. I know deals. And I think we're going to get it settled, hopefully soon.
Then Donald Trump said, and look, sanctions off against Turkey. You don't sanction your friends. You sanction Turkey. The sanctions under a law called CATSA, which sanctions foreign countries if they procure weapons from Russia. That's why Turkey was sanctioned. It wasn't like a random thing. They bought Russian defense systems, and so they got the sanctions that ban them from F-35s and other things like that. And so you did it. It was your administration that did those sanctions. But Donald Trump's like, we're removing all sanctions. And Rubio's like, oh, we are? I just testified in Congress. We couldn't do that. Play this clip.
I can tell you, we're going to be taking the sanctions off. Okay? I don't want him to waste his time answering that question because we're working very closely with Marco Rubio, a very famous man, great Secretary of State, and with Scott Bessent and with Pete and everybody else. We're going to be taking the sanctions off. It's time to do that. Okay? We don't want to sanction friends. It's very simple. There's plenty of people we can sanction, and we are sanctioned. We don't want to sanction friends. And because of the president, we have a very good relationship with the new leader of Syria, and he's done an amazing job. In a year and a half, he's pulled the whole country together. And I have a very great relationship with him. And somebody said, well, he's pretty rough to put him there. I approved him along with the president. We were the two that really wanted him. And he's done a great job. He's done a great job. He's pulled it together. Not an easy job.
Then a very confused Donald Trump has difficulty understanding the question when he was asked about this, because he was asked, there are concerns about the Russian missile defense system. That's what the basis of the sanctions against Turkey was, over the Russian defense systems. So are those going to be removed? Are they going to be replaced? That was the main issue. And Donald Trump, I don't know what. I have no concerns about anything, he says. Which is interesting to say, I have no concerns about anything. And in the past 24 hours, this is what my next video is going to be on. Iran has attacked and has shot at and disabled 5 tankers trying to use the United States route in the Strait of Hormuz in violation of the MOU and not the IRGC route. 5 tankers, because the U.S. has been trying to violate the MOU by saying tankers will protect you if you use our route. Saudi Arabian tankers, Qatari tankers, they turn their transponders off, their AIS systems off. But I don't have concern. Trump doesn't have concerns about anything. Use our lane. And you saw what happened. Well, I'll do a video on that. Let's play it.
What does that mean?
Is it going to be handed over to a third party? Is that not part of the deal?
Third party? What is the third, with respect to what?
There's our concerns about the Russian missile defense system. Do you have those concerns about this system? Are they going
I have no concerns at all about anything. I mean, he's a leader of a country that he's made a much better country, much more powerful country. And you see it. I mean, it's beautiful. You get off, the roads are beautiful. It's an amazing thing. Now, I have no concerns about anything having to do with Turkey. The relationship, I would say the relationship with Turkey right now is better probably than it's ever been. It was good in my first 4 years, but I think now it's probably even better than that, if that's possible.
And then Donald Trump says, look, I really don't care about the Russia war on Ukraine because it doesn't affect us at all in the United States. Let's play it.
It doesn't affect the United States. When Biden was here, he gave them hundreds of billions of dollars worth of equipment. Now I sell the equipment for, fair price, the full price. And I sell it not to Ukraine, I sell it to the European Union. They pay us. And
then Donald Trump proceeds to lie and say, we had the best year ever for the United States economy. The economy, we brought in $19.2 trillion, a made up number. We didn't bring in any of that. It's every aspect of its life. We didn't bring in $1 trillion. We didn't bring in any more money. In fact, we've brought in less money than under former President Biden. That if that 19.1 trillion exists, then explain this to me. Explain this to me. I'll ask you. Where is it? Why does our debt continue to pile on? Why does our deficit continue to grow? Wouldn't that fill the deficit gap like on a year-to-year basis if we brought in that amount of money? Why are jobs? Why do we have a massive jobs recession? Why did we only create 47,000 jobs last month, which will probably be revised down? 57,000 jobs, which will probably be revised down to 0 or maybe 10 jobs when we get the revisions. Where is it? Where is it, Donald? Here, play this clip.
We've had an amazing, probably the best year maybe ever had by an American president. When you look at the economy, we have the greatest economy we've ever had. We have $19 trillion, $19.2 trillion to be exact, being invested in the United States. That's 7 or 8 times more than it's ever had. It's a world record, not just a U.S. record. And I just read where, in fact, coming over, I was in the car with those beautiful horses.
And as I'll show you in the next video, what is also happening right now, you think about the contrast, Donald Trump in Ankara, and then you have the massive turnout in Qom, QOM, a relatively smaller desert city in Iran, where there are, just look how many people, millions of people showing up in Qom. I'll show you the helicopter view right here. We could just show B-roll of the helicopter view. And members of Congress have now urgently writing letters right now. Writing letters do something about Donald Trump just going around the congressional law regarding the sanctions, which are specifically targeted because of the Russian defense systems. That's why Turkey was not allowed in the F-35 program and why they had certain other sanctions on the type of funds and financing that they could receive. And so they're like, you're just violated the law. We don't approve of this. Anyway, that's what's going on right now. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MidasPlus.com.